Welcome to the Lowdown, episode 4 with Pat. How I got into riding? I've been into riding ever since I knew what a motorcycle was. Since the age of about 7, I always knew I wanted to ride. And one of the bikes here that we'll show you today will be that example. So the first bike is my 93 FXR. It started off as a regular Super Glide 2, pretty stock. It was left outside for years when I came across it about 8 years ago. Since then, kind of built it up, threw a fancy paint job on it, hot rod motor. It's pretty much my everyday commuter. All right, so paint. This was my buddy Joe's first paint job. I said, if you paint this bike for me, I promise to get it in a magazine. Within a month of him painting it, it went into Hot Bike's FXR Special Edition issue. I like the colors black and white, so as you see, so that's for the paint. All right, motor, it is a very hot rodded 80-inch motor. I wanted to keep it 80-inch just for reliability issues. A lot of headwork, 10.5 compression, 600 lift cam, made about just about 100 on the Dyna. Had to go with the best, had to go with Olin's. I don't utilize them to their full capability, but I know once I get the chance to hit them on the track, that's where they'll be the best. All right. So this is my 1990 Harley-Davidson Evo chopper. Pretty much the story behind this was that it was a rush build for Sturgis in 2019. Went with a bunch of buddies, they all had choppers, and I wanted to be part of that group. So we pretty much slapped this thing together within 2 months. It's a real big inch Evo motor. It's a real tight frame. Everything's pretty compact. It's definitely a ripper, that's for sure. So it's the chopper. On the chopper, it is an 89-inch Evolution motor, made about 100 on the dyno. The difference is compared to the FXR motor is that this is a very high revving motor, so the power is near instant. Unlike regular mids, these I opted to go with super high mids. Why I like them more than traditional mids is that it is a conversation starter. People always ask, how do you ride that? That looks so uncomfortable. It is actually more comfortable than regular mids because of the seating position. I'm actually able to rest my elbows on my knees while riding. This pipe actually came off of an FXR. It's a little scraped up right now. It is called a Bartell pipe. What is kind of cool about this particular exhaust is that this came from Bartell's Harley-Davidson in California. Little did I know that it was named for that until I talked to the owner of Bartell's, and he said that him and his brother created this pipe in the 90s. All right, so this is my 77 Ironhead. This is the bike that got everything started. This bike was left to me when I was 7 years old. And it was left to me in crates, and I wasn't allowed to touch it until I was 18, or rather I wasn't allowed to ride it till I was 18. So they didn't say anything about me building it. So from the age of 7 till I was about 18, I made this all in my parents' garage, backyard build, and it hasn't changed since. This is my 2018 Road Glide Special in Bonneville White Pearl. This is pretty much my long trip bike. The best thing about this bike is that it has a warranty and that it will not break down. Influences for these builds, each one does have a little bit of sentimental value. This one was kind of I wanted a bike to commute from work to school, something like that. I couldn't keep doing that on my 77 Ironhead, so it was either between a 92 to 94 FXR or some type of DX, FXDX. I came across this FXR and pretty much just built it ever since. So that influence was the people I was riding with. I was working at Nassau County Harley at the time. They all had bikes like that. It was very hard for me to keep up on an old Ironhead, especially going out to lunch or going out after work. So I got this and it's been getting modified ever since. In the later years, I would say there is a bit of hype on them. They're a great bike, phenomenal bike. As someone who has ridden the newer Softails, newer touring bikes, those handle phenomenally. It's two different riding styles. FXRs, you sit in compared to a Dyna or a Softail where you kind of sit on top of. Nothing wrong with that. Just in my opinion, FXRs, you feel more in with the bike. And also that helps the aspect of its handling capabilities. As of late, I would say they're a bit overrated. Price have skyrocketed, but I don't think there's anything underrated about them. They're a phenomenal performance machine. Do your research, learn the years that there were certain better things. It also comes down to taste. If you want something more of something that you want to modify more, go with the regular Super Glide 2. You can make your own modifications to it if you want something a little more higher, you know, in package, an RT or an RP. With the bigger fairing, even the windshield models are awesome. Do your research. I prefer the 92, 93, 94 models just because of the options with them, being a head breather motor, being a spline shaft tranny. Those are just some things to look out for. Someone that's new that is going to look at bikes, something like that, look at mileage. Mileage is a big thing. Low mileages aren't the best thing. If you have a bike that's 20, 25 years old that has very low mileage, it's probably gonna need gaskets, base gaskets, something along those lines. You're looking at them, go over it with a fine-tooth comb, check for leaks, shift shaft seal leak, main seal leak, rocker box leak, stuff like that. That's pretty much the best advice I can give to anyone looking for an FXR. Don't buy one of mine. So the chopper, being very similar to the FXR as far as culture and modifications, there is a lot that you can do with an FXR in terms of making it your own. Choppers is a whole nother world. There are a million different variations of choppers. My favorite style is kind of a New York style, real high, real tight, real fast. You got choppers with apes, fat rear tires, huge stretched front ends, up and out frames. So with someone that wants to get into the chopper world or the chopper building world, is do what you like, do what you love, these bikes are a reflection of yourself. So if you like the big stretched out things, the California style, anything like that, do what makes you happy, do what you like, do what you think looks cool. As for me, this is like the apex of bikes for me. This bike is 100% a reflection for me. As you can tell, all these bikes are black and white. I wanted to introduce that into this bike. Most of these bikes are pretty fast, hot motors. This is a perfect example of it. So as far as choppers, make it your own. My favorite ride would be Needles Highway in Sturgis. That is my all-time favorite ride. The first time I did it was in 2019 on a freshly built chopper. Had an absolute blast. Just the tight turns, the real hairpin curves. Absolutely fell in love with it. When I went this year, I made sure to bring my better handling bike. Chopper's great, chopper's fast, not the best handling. This is light years ahead of that as far as handling. Had an absolute blast on that ride with this bike this year. Favorite bike event from this past year, we pretty much hit every major bike event. I work for a company called First Manufacturing, so they send us to these events to set up, to show face. This year, I had an absolute blast in Sturgis. It was with great people, made great friends. Sturgis was awesome. I had 2 bikes there, including 2 mini bikes. Absolutely loved it. As far as a homegrown kind of backyard event, I absolutely loved Deadbeat Retreat. That was in Fryeburg, Maine. Just campfires, hanging, great riding up there. As far as those 2 different ends of the spectrum, big rallies was Sturgis 2021, backyard events, Deadbeat Customs in Maine. Being able to ride with my dad is awesome. That was a very long time coming. To keep the story short is that my parents never wanted me to ride. They knew that that 77 Ironhead was left to me, so they really didn't have a choice, so they tried to come up with dumb obstacles that would hinder me from riding, all starting from when you can stand the bike up on your own. Hit that when you're able to pull the clutch in with one hand. Mind you, I was an 8-year-old kid trying to do that. To a hard task of trying to kickstart my old man Shovelhead with 3 kicks. After nailing all those things, all those tasks, obstacles, they had no choice. They knew I was going to do it regardless, with or without their blessing. So riding with my dad has been a very long time coming. I know he hates my riding style, and he bites his tongue a lot whenever he sees me rip a wheelie or rip a burnout or do something that isn't kosher with riding, something a little risque. I know his heart drops a little bit, but riding with family members is definitely something that you should do if you haven't had the opportunity to. So upcoming riding season, one of the biggest things that I look forward to is meeting new people, people learning how to ride, people that just bought brand new bikes, brand new baggers, this guy over here, and just looking to crush miles with it. As far as that's the biggest thing I always look forward to, is meeting people at these events, just being involved in the culture. Biggest event that I am looking forward to this year is going to be Sturgis. Sturgis is kind of like our Mecca. To all my buddies that kind of helped me get into bikes, my fabricators, there's a lot of people to be mentioned. My really close friends, they all know who they are. I'd like to give a shout out to First Manufacturing. It's where I work, and they send us to all these really, really cool events. You get to meet people in the industry, people that I never thought I would have met, people that I've looked up to since I was a kid, pretty much building bikes. Even as far along the lines as musicians that are involved in the bike world. First Manufacturing has given me that opportunity to meet these people at these events, so that's a big shout out. They also make pretty badass Fast End jackets, so that's a big thing. Shout out to my wife that lets me do all this stuff. So this is Pat. Thanks for checking out episode 4 of FXDLSBROOKLYN's channel. Catch you next time. This is my Doodlebug mini bike. Does 50 miles an hour. It's sick.